catch me balling like I'm in the end zone. I got my homies in the no new friend zone. You know, making plays that land us in the end zone. Coming in clutch, you can catch me in the end zone. End zone.
What is happening, people, and welcome back to In the End Zone UK, your home for all things NFL and much, much more. This is it. The final episode of the 2025 NFL season. Super Bowl 60, the World Championship, the Lombardi Trophy on the line. Two of the best teams all season long, Seattle Seahawks, New England Patriots, meeting on the biggest stage of them all at Levi Stadium in San Francisco. And make no mistake about it, this night belonged to Seattle. The Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champions. It makes me incredibly happy to be able to say that. Of course, listeners, you all know I'm a Seahawks fan. We will get to talking about how elated I am, the game, and everything that comes with hoisting a Lombardi trophy. But with me today to talk all things Super Bowl, it is not the full In the End Zone squad. Little Camo is away sunning his little body in the Caribbean. So it's me, Big Dave, and a returning special guest. First up, the Titan, the Tennessee lover. It's Big Dave. Last episode of the season, Big Dave. How are you?
Yeah, good. You know, we've recovered from watching the Super Bowl late night, as it always is. I always get a headache, like, towards the end of a night, even if watching just a normal weekend of football. But it was well worth it, you know. It started off as a bit of a pump game, turned into an all right fourth quarter game. So, yeah, ready to talk about it.
Are you sure that headache wasn't caused by copious amounts of beers you were drinking, Dave?
That might also have played a part. But I was driving my car like a sensible human, so I didn't drink too many. In case the police are listening.
Yeah. You have to account for it being an incredibly late night in the UK watching the Super Bowl. We do have US listeners out there. You have the luxury end of the deal. You can watch it at a regular time, have some drinks, go to bed, whereas the Super Bowl messes us up for many days to come. I think I've just got over it. Good stuff. Good to have you on the last pod of the season, Dave. Next up is our special guest. We had him on the podcast last offseason to talk all things Minnesota Vikings. It is the UK rapper, bodybuilder, personal trainer, and the voice of the In the End Zone UK entrance music that you will have just heard on the pod. It is Mr. John Fox. How are you doing, big man? Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, boys. I am amazing. Still slightly sleep deprived, but yeah, man, I'm good.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast. It's been a long time coming, actually. You know, we've been interacting a lot during this off season. You're part of our fantastic fanatic group, and I can't say that it was the best season for you, but it was your first one, and you held your own in the end. But it's great to have you back on the pod.
Thank you, man. No, I'm buzzing to be back. Always buzzing to be back. But, you know, fantasy is put that to bed for the time being. You know, we'll put that.
we might have to. Good. Well, you are taking the place, John, of Little Camo today. As I say, he's away, so you have some little boots to fill with the big bodybuilder body that you've got going on. Are you ready for the challenge?
I'm up for the challenge, most definitely.
Good stuff. So before we get to the football, let's give a quick shout out to the Hickory's crew in Nottingham. We were there, the whole In the End Zone UK crew, friends, family, spent the Super Bowl night together. Big screens, big atmosphere, big moments. We were all there and we had a great time. And JFX, you were with us, your first Super Bowl with the In the End Zone UK crew. Did you enjoy it? Just talk to us, let the listeners know that we're real human beings that can have a good time. Did you, hopefully, fingers crossed, have a good time?
There was one moment where I thought, I don't know how this is going to go, when that table of Patriots fans came and sat right next to us. I thought, we're in for it now. But nah, honestly, it was so cool. It was such a good vibe. Like, Hickory's was insane, kitted out, and everybody, you know, you guys had there. It was awesome, man. Honestly, it was so sick. Such a good vibe. A bit disappointed there was only one Vikings flag. I found the one Vikings flag in the bar.
Okay.
And it was like hidden behind two others. You could like just make out his little hair. So Hickory's, we need to, you know, talk about that. But no, honestly, it was such a good time, man. Such a good vibe. Yeah, I'm buzzing for next year.
Good stuff. Yeah, we're buzzing to have you with us next year. And like you say, joining the watch party at Hickory's, we had a private screen room and we had a lot of friends and family with us. Dave, I think it stepped up a notch from the last Hickory's Super Bowl watch, which was hard to do anyway because they put on a really good show. But I think just everything they do for it, they had American police cars outside, good food on the tables, cheerleaders walking around, loads of memorabilia and stuff across the pub. Did you enjoy your second in the end zone UK watch party at Hickory's, West Bridgford?
Yeah. They obviously they screwed it up really well. They've got it set up properly. There's flags of all the teams. I'm glad John found his Vikings one. I didn't see a Titans one, so maybe not all the teams, maybe all the good teams. But they do a good job. They do a good job of cutting around, making sure everyone's having a good time. Constantly asking if you want drinks. I know we've got the little booth or the little room in the corner with the big screen in it, which makes it a little bit better for us. Random people were popping their heads in, just to see what was going on, I think, in there. But now Hickory's do a good job. What they could do with doing is turning the heating down a little bit. But outside of that, they do put on a good show.
That's it. For the listeners out there, at one point it got a little bit sweaty, and that wasn't just because it was my Seahawks in the Super Bowl. It was a hot room, but it brings out the best in people. Like you just have to sit in front of those fans and try and get a bit of relief. But I mean, people popping their heads in was probably because of the noise coming out of that room where it all going off. As I say, being a Seahawks fan, I think I was probably rather animated at times. It's a good job we had cinema seats. Otherwise, I'd have been running around, but I could only stand up and sit back down and slap some of the chairs, which was good stuff. It's just a spectacle. It's exactly what you want the Super Bowl to be. We did all that and plus much more. Roxy Ballrooms, we played a bit of pool and basketball, and they've got baseball nets and all sorts of stuff, but a bit of ping pong as well. Dave's the master champ of table tennis. No debating that. But it was great. And for me, awesome. And essentially for the Seahawks to get a win on top, I honestly have been riding high for the last couple of days. And I don't want to sound like a douche, just like it doesn't feel real, but it's such a big thing, for your team to win a Super Bowl. It doesn't happen very often. There's one team out of 32 that can do it. And generally speaking, a lot of teams some teams are still even waiting for their first ever ring, which is wild. And it was great. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about it. Normally we do a game of the week, but this week, the game of the week was the Super Bowl. And so, I mean, just for me to recap it before we get into our beloved segment, Super Bowl 60, Seattle Seahawks versus the Patriots. From the opening kickoff, it felt like the Seahawks night. We have to be honest. The narrative was perfect. The last time Seattle were in a Super Bowl, it was against the New England Patriots. A dramatic loss, an interception thrown by Russell Wilson on the 1-yarder. Redemption was needed. And just like the last Seahawks winning Super Bowl, the team was built on defense. And Seattle did exactly that again. They set the tone early, physical, aggressive, relentless, pressure up front, discipline, and just a refusal to let New England find any rhythm, score any points. It was a shutout at halftime, total dominance. And equally, I feel like New England battled the best way they could in the circumstances. They tried to make a game of it. As Dave said, it started to pick itself up end of the third into the fourth, and you thought, could this happen? We've seen that comeback of the Patriots before, but it was not a Tom Brady-led Patriots. It was a Drake May who does not have that quality yet in his game. But for me, Seahawks, it wasn't flashy, but it was dominance. And it was clear that this was Seattle's moment, a time to win a Super Bowl, and it did feel inevitable by the end. And the end score was Seattle Seahawks 29, New England Patriots 13. So the last time this year we're going to do it, we are getting into the Super Bowl edition of Slap or Sign. As always, boys, same rule applies. 2 players from the AFC, 2 players from the NFC. A sign for a player who rose to the biggest moment on the biggest stage and a slap for the player who disappeared when it mattered the most. Super Bowls do not lie. This is our final slap or sign of 2025. And do you know what, JFX, I'm coming to you. The guest speaks first in the last slap or sign of the season. So I'm going to go AFC first. I want to talk about the Patriots, and let's talk about some good things. Let's not go immediately onto the back foot of the Patriots loss. Let's talk about, to the Patriots fans out there, to those who wanted the Patriots to win, who or what can you pick out of this game that was something good? So let's go for a sign for the Patriots.
So signing for Patriots, I'm trying to pick individual players because I was thinking Gonzalez because he had an absolute game. But I think I'm going to sign their defense as a whole. The Patriots defense to me was great. It was a really good defensive battle from both teams, and I just think they kept them in it more. I know they weren't really in it, especially from what you said. It was, the tone was pretty much set from the beginning, but I feel like the defense really did their part. And even there was one of the players, he's massive, of course, big beard, bald head. You could see him on the sidelines when they was like cutting to the side, and he's like geeing everyone up, and you could see that leadership. And I feel like, even though they probably would have told themselves, oh, we can still do this, we can do this. I feel like there probably was that bit of doubt there, but it was just still that thing of, no, let's still go out, let's still put it all on the line. And I think that's what you want. It's Super Bowl. You've got to put it all on the line, haven't you? And I feel like they absolutely did that. They did that the best that they could. So yeah, I'm going to sign the Patriots defense, I think.
Okay, nice. Yeah, love to hear that. I mean, yeah, in the first half especially, the Seahawks only managed to put up 9 points, and it was all field goals. So you could look at that and say, the Patriots defense really did everything that it could do to try and give its offense the most amount of chance to get back into the game, potentially take a lead. There was so many times where you kept asking me, how you feeling? And I was like, I feel good, but we were only 6 points up. All it would have taken was a touchdown and a converted extra point for the Patriots to be winning. And I was a bit like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable because their defense was stifling our offense. I mean, ultimately, stopping touchdowns is their objective, and that's what they did for the first half. So, yeah, you've definitely got to give that credit to the Patriots. They did not allow too many yards. And again, it was a first half thing. Everything came alive a little bit more competitively in the second half. But, they held Sam Darnold all game, full game, 202 yards. Drake May had more yards than that. There were some prayer balls involved in that sort of thing. But I think what let the Patriots down ultimately was they sold out to stop JSN in the passing game. And it did mean that they got ran on a little bit, especially in key moments, to be able to allow Seahawks to just put up those 3 points, and then those 6 points, then those 9 points. Then you get to 9 and you think, okay, this is a long way away from a team that seemingly cannot score a point, and certainly in the first half it looked that way. Dave, JFX has taken the Patriots defense. Any thoughts on that, or are you adding to that with your AFC sign?
Yeah, I went captain obvious with Christian Gonzalez.
He needs to be spoken about, though, because goddamn was he good.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He proved why he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He didn't give the receivers any breathing room at all. He had 3 key pass breakups that ultimately could have led to either touchdowns or big first downs. Because in the first probably 2.5 quarters, the Seahawks weren't doing anything with the ball. They weren't. Their major plays came from passes. Sam Darnold was having to squeeze balls into really, really tight windows that on another day, could have gone the opposite way. So he's obviously him and sort of Milton Williams, they're the focal points on that offense. But their corners are good. Carlton Davis is no slouch. I'm assuming he won the Super Bowl with the Bucs.
He was there.
Yeah. He was on the
Bucs with Tom Brady. Yeah, he's got.
I think he must have won the Super Bowl with them. So he's no slouch at corner either. They're both really, really good, and I think that's probably a mixture of them two. The reason that the Seahawks maybe didn't run away with it straight away, and it was kind of allowed to be a close game right until the end. But then ultimately, good offense beats good defense, and I just think that you can only cover for so long, and the one thing the Seahawks had that the Patriots didn't have was consistent pressure with just 4 people. when you can do that, you're allowed to drop sort of 7-8 into coverage, which allows almost no passing yards.
Yeah.
So yeah, Christian Gonzalez is getting it from me.
I was going to follow suit. I knew his name would be mentioned by one or the other, so I've gone slightly differently. But like, whilst we're just on the subject, he was phenomenal. Like, whilst we were watching that game to start with, I mean, there was that open pass into the end zone just as the quarter was finishing that looked like on any other day that's a touchdown for JSN. It was a little shimmy shake that he tried to sell Gonzalez that he was going outside, then came back in on an inbreaker, and you thought, there you go, touchdown. Like, even Donald, whizzed that ball in. It was a little bit behind JSN, but nevertheless, it was a catchable ball. And there he was, Gonzalez, flying through the air like a freaking jet. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, like a jet, just. And he was hunting the ball. That's what I love to see from a corner, right? Corners that like just get in the way, like a Sauce Gardner, pull a bunch of penalties, just get in the way. They're not turning and looking for the ball. They sort of try and play through the hands of the receiver. Gonzalez looks for the rock and finds it. There was one before that, I think, that you just referred to as well, Dave. And John, I was sat next to you at this moment where I think I stood up in celebration because I was like, this is a catch. And he batted it away, and it was like, ow. And it was a flying through the air missile bat away ball. And I thought, how's he done that? He's very special, isn't he?
Yeah, it really is. He definitely had JSN's number. I gotta say, he stepped up and did what he needed to do, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted JSN to have like a big day because he's a Seahawks receiver, but ultimately, all I cared about was that the players did what they needed to do to draw attention away from wherever else the attention might be. And as much as Gonzalez was one-on-one with him 90% of the game, JSN was also double covered for a lot of it as well. So you've got a lockdown corner in Gonzalez and you're applying additional help. I think it just, again, it's sort of the chinks in the armor eventually come, don't they, when then you've got Cooper Kupp making a couple of big plays, AJ Barner leaking out the backfield for a touchdown when you've not got as many people in the backfield as maybe you would hope, or if you double in JSN. Eventually they happen. And to your point, Dave, that's the thing where you say when you've got consistency on your offense, there's only so long you can hold up against like 1, 2, 3, 4 potential receivers. So I think for the most part, though, they did that. I think for me, I'm going to go, this is probably just like, again, low hanging fruit, but I'm going to go with Mike Vrabel. This is a guy who won Coach of the Year. This is a guy who I think they had to make sure that their defense held their own against the Seahawks, because otherwise I think everybody knew it was going to be a tough day for Drake May. And so they must have spent so much time in being like, right, how can we essentially eradicate JSN? This is like very much Bill Belichick Patriots days where he would just wipe out your number one threat. And so you had to beat him with your others. That was always a thing of his. I know he's not Belichick, but that's probably a mindset that they had going into this game. Right, how do we stop JSN so that we have to be beaten by others? And they were only just barely beaten by others on offense. It was that kind of game. It was like, yes, okay, you're getting a touchdown to AJ Barner, and Kenneth Walker had sort of his way on the ground at times. But I think Vrabel had a great game plan. And I think he just maybe had more hope that he was going to get something a bit more special out of Drake May, which he's a second-year quarterback at the end of the day. He did deserve to be MVP, which he didn't win. I think he just showed ultimately where he was at in the scheme of things. But going back to Vrabel and just giving him flowers, he's got a above-average team into the playoffs and then into a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
you can't really say much more about the man other than he's a great coach. Players want to play for him. There's some rumors out there that other players want to play for him. Cough, cough, Max Crosby. Whether that happens or not, we don't know. And that would be, a game changer for the Patriots. They might be a bit more relevant as we move forward. But yeah, for me, I know Dave, were a fan of Vrabel when he was at the Titans, and now he was in our conversation last week for head coach or coach of the year. Still feel that way, or do you think he could have done something a bit better against the Seahawks defense with his offense?
Vrabel's a weird one, isn't he? Because he's that head coach that's the commander in chief. You know, he's not a play caller. He don't call plays on offense or defense. So I'm guessing all you can do is look at the plan that's been put before you by McDaniel and be like, yeah, I'm happy with that. But with that, you know, when they couldn't run the ball, do you try and change things up? Drake May was obviously under duress the whole time. Ultimately, it's probably his turnovers that kept the game from being as close as it was. You know, 2 interceptions technically and a fumble loss, then 3 extra possessions. There, you can't give it when you can't do anything with the ball. I mean, neither could you at the start.
Yeah,
it was a close game. You know, you're only up 12 points before that happens, and then suddenly you give the ball away a couple of times, and you look up and it's 19-0. You know, and that then becomes. You've struggled for 2 halves to score a touchdown, and now you've got to go and score 3. It starts to look a little bit like it's not going to happen. He's obviously a great coach. You know, he's got them. He's got them fired up, and he's got them playing well for him. I don't think they'll be back there next year, regardless of who they get. They've had an easy run. They've played some scrub teams, Titans being one of them, and they've you know, I just think they were a bit fraudulent. I think he's done well to get them from 4 wins to the Super Bowl is obviously a huge achievement. So yeah, he's a great coach, you know, no doubt about it. But I do think there's these things that he's maybe going to look back on and be like, I wish I'd have maybe got on him about changing this on the offense or change this a little bit on the defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
John, do you share the same sentiment about Vrabel? Do you think that the Patriots were maybe an overachiever? Being in that Super Bowl, like from a not a neutral perspective, but we've not had somebody on the podcast who's, you know, watched a full season now and you know, can give us a bit of insight on what maybe a more neutral thinks of a Patriots team.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize that Vrabel doesn't play call. So, you know, obviously, like Dave's saying, he sort of just gives the nod. And as Dave was saying, I was thinking, well, yeah, surely you'd look at that. When I know hindsight's 20/20, guys, but you'd look at that and think maybe we should change some things. I do think. It keeps getting spoke about. Obviously, they did have an easy schedule. We can't deny it. And when they came against proper teams, you know, like they did kind of get put into place, you know. And it, I feel like they've dodged, they've bobbed, they've weaved, they've done what they need to do to get there, which in itself is still impressive because it's like, you know what, fair play. You're frauds, but you've made it to the Super Bowl, so that you can't really knock it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like fair. You've bounced your way along and you've got there. So yeah, definitely they were in a favourable position. But then I think if they wouldn't have done that, if they hadn't have got to the Super Bowl with that favourable position, you could just say, yeah, that team's toilet because of that. So yeah, I think you can go back and forth about it all the time. I think ultimately, yeah, they've done what they need to do. Vrabel's done amazing as a first-year coach. I was joking with you guys when we was obviously at the Hickories. I said how I'm a bit of a hippie and I love all the stories. I'm like, it's all great. But like, it's a cool story. You know, all the Super Bowls he's won with the Patriots to now have lent him to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's a cool story. But yeah, ultimately, the better team did win. And it'll be interesting to see how they fare this season. Like as you know, like as a contender and against actual teams, not just as Dave calls them the scrubs. Because yeah, I don't think you can lightning won't strike twice for them. I don't think that, definitely not.
The stars would have to align very differently for them to. I mean, how many teams actually make it back to a Super Bowl the year after they've won? They've been there. Not many at all. How many win after they've done that? Even less. You know. So yeah, I guess we'll see. But you know, there would be heavy amounts of money to say that the Patriots' year to potentially win something was this year, and they got knocked back. Let's stay in the AFC and let's really get ugly, boys. Let's get ugly. Dave, I'm coming to you for a slap on the Patriots or on the AFC or somewhere that you want to send that big rad hand.
It's probably gonna have to be the Patriots if we're looking at the AFC. No, we've just spoke about it. To be honest, I probably covered it a little bit then, but the Patriots offensive coordinator McDaniel, you know, I think he's got a little bit of accountability here on the way it worked. You know, I don't think he's probably going to leak in again to my sign from the NFC, but your coach had his number at every turn. You know, the names McDaniel, McDonald, you know, the two Macs. He had his number at every turn. You know, they couldn't run the ball. I almost slapped the running backs because their running backs did nothing.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at both sides of the ball, both sides of both offenses, you've got one running back who's on his own. You know, his running mates out injured.
Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, and he's having to do it all on his own. You know, it'd have been nice to see Kenny McIntosh, but we didn't get to see.
That's another Mac.
Yeah, it is,
McIntosh.
Too many.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did no run game whatsoever, you know, and I don't know. I know their offensive line was in absolute turmoil against your defensive line. You know that. What's his name there? Left tackle.
Will Campbell.
Campbell. He was seeing. He was in the hurt locker. You know, if you seen 1917, that
Yes.
film.
Yeah.
There's just people that it's can't. That's what he was seeing. He was just seeing bullets, bombs, and bodies everywhere. He was not having a good way.
I thought you were going to say he was like the Weekend in that last Super Bowl show when he was just banging into mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was put in a blender. That kid, bless him. But their running backs didn't do anything to help, you know. And I think that, and I said this to Izzy when we were watching it. I said we rewatched it yesterday, and you cannot against the Seahawks. You can't throw laterally. And they constantly went back to do it, you know, with the spoon, matey boy. Yeah, they're too quick. They're too fast running downhill, you know. And you've got Ernest Jones. He's a side-to-side linebacker as well. Who's the white boy they've got, the linebacker?
Drake Thomas.
Oh yeah, number like 40.
Drake Thomas, yeah,
whatever he was. But they can all move side to side, and you can't pass the ball left and right. You need to be going north and south with the ball, and they just weren't. They kept getting caught out doing it. And how can we see that as casual randoms, you know, and offensive play callers can't see it? Like, have you got nothing else in the arsenal? You know, Drake May's then having to throw the ball down the field, and when there's four defenders, you know, because their offensive line can't hold up. I just felt like there was no adjustments made whatsoever by the Patriots, and it ultimately cost them. You know, they did nothing. They had one touchdown that came on like 3 plays to Matt Collins. Drake May probably wasn't using his legs anywhere near enough. I mean, I wouldn't want to getting smashed by all them players, but when that's the difference between like a Drake May and a Josh Allen. Or Josh Allen, if he knows it's going tits up, he's just going to put the ball, he's going to take it, put it on his back, and he's just going to run. You know, and he'll get them first downs. I didn't feel like they had that yesterday. Well, not yesterday, whenever it was, a couple of days ago. So, yeah, he's getting the slap from me for not adapting.
Yeah. I think maybe some of that, so it's Josh McDaniel, is it? I'm getting McDaniels now, but if you think about, it's 10 Super Bowls he's been to, right, as an offensive coordinator. Yeah. I'd imagine for the most of those, he had Tom Brady, all of them. Yeah. So, I mean, there's the age-old question in there: Belichick or Brady, McDaniels or Brady, or maybe it's just a combination of the two, where McDaniels used to having a quarterback who is so clued in, so available and able to read what's in front of him that maybe it's just an impossible task. You know, maybe coaching an offensive quarterback and an offensive team ultimately against a Mike McDonald-led demon defense, maybe it's just not possible. You know, maybe May was never going to be able, like, would anybody able to get Drake May to beat that defense? It's probably a no, you know, like, because he doesn't have it, just doesn't have it. But they could have put him in more favorable positions. You heard it on the broadcast, and Ndamukong Suh, I love that name, means House of Spears. What a name is that? Like, wow. But Ndamukong Suh was just saying, look, buy him some time, throw some screens. But then to your point, Dave, it's a lateral throw. You've got Emanwari.
Yeah, I just don't think you can
coming downhill.
Yeah, I mean, even the Titans gave you a closer game than what the Patriots did.
It's true.
You know, if we can put 24 points on you, then surely this super Patriots team can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, like Brady said, you know, when he was playing against the Chiefs with the Bucs in that Super Bowl, he said he watched that much tape. He knew what play they were calling before the defense even knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when you're an OG like that, you can look. That's what Aaron Rodgers does. You know, they'll take control of that. When the play call comes in, they'll be like, "Nah, that's shit.
Yeah,
we'll do this."
Yeah.
He's 23 years old or whatever. That's why I'm not slapping him, because a 23-year-old in the Super Bowl against a defense that he's not seen anything like that before. What can you do? You know,
Yeah, it's fair.
Brock Purdy was speaking to, I can't remember, it might have been, I can't remember who he was speaking to, but he was saying that the Seahawks defense is it's just angry. Like it's constantly coming at you, and it's so hard to try. And that's Brock Purdy, who's got a lot more experience than Drake May has, and he struggled with it, you know. So obviously, 14 teams struggled with it in the regular season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. JFF, are you taking us in a different direction? Are you following a similar suit? Where are you at with your AFC slap?
It's hard because I know I kept saying it, that Drake May is a false prophet, but also I feel like kind of with Dave, it's a bit harsh to slap him because I was saying to you, Dom, from the beginning of the game, he just didn't look like he was ready. You know, he didn't.
If you want to slap him, if that's who's written down on your sheet, slap the young buck. Slap the young buck. It might not be his fault, but like you say, he's been giving it Barry, and his interviews and the MVP conversations. Like maybe JFX needs to bring him down a little peg if he hasn't already had one.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I'm going to stick, I wrote that down and the offense, but I'm going to stick with Drake May just because I think one of the things that you want to see from a quarterback, I know he's young. I know, I get that. And we've established he's in an impossible position, right? And he's never going to beat that defense. But to me, like, especially as a quarterback, you still got to be a leader. And I kept saying to you, Dom, he just doesn't look like he looks scared, which he might have been. I mean, he learned some putting the pressure on immediately where he might have been, but I don't know. I just feel like, and it's very easy for me to say, of course, but you are in the biggest moment, you know, the biggest game, leave it all on the line, like risk it all, like go for it. You're in the flipping Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That pressure either makes diamonds or it crumbles you. And I just think it crumbled him. And I think that it's not the only thing that let them down, but yeah, I was looking for that leadership from him, that kind of reassurance. And if I was on the team, I'd be looking at thinking, our offense hasn't got a lot going anyway. I kept saying to you, Dom was being, for the listeners out there, Dom was being very reserved at all times. He didn't want any jinxing of the Seahawks, and because anything could switch at any point as well with this game, as we know from this season. But
yeah,
you could just see it from the beginning, and I was just like, this offense, they're not going to be able to put points against you. And that is where someone like a Brady or a Josh Allen could be a difference maker, or even, I know Dave's not a big fan of him, but Mr. Mahomes, like, there's players that can make a difference. And Drake May, I don't doubt he probably will get there, but he just wasn't there. And I think that was a time for him to really step up and just keep composed. And to me, I don't know, I just didn't see it composed.
Sure.
So yeah, I think let's give Mr. May the old slap, the big backhand.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're definitely not wrong. And when you mentioned the thing about like leadership, I really feel that. Like, I really understand what you're saying, because he didn't at any point look like the leader of a team. And he's probably not, you know, at the end of the day, he's a 23-year-old. He's in a Mike Vrabel-led Patriots team. Vrabel's the man. Vrabel's he's your king. But at the same time, you're a quarterback. You're an MVP boat quarterback. You know, you've got to maybe step up and take that as like, yeah, I'm like, you know, some swag. But I guess even if he'd have come to the table with some swag, it would have been beat out of him, I guess. And so what's better? Come to the table with some swag and get it fed back to you, or just be, you know, nonchalant and just take your sacks and hits and just roll out of there a loser. Like, ultimately, again, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I guess at this point, if there's any time in the season that I'm allowed to like be that way about the Seahawks, I guess it's right now. And I think no matter what, you know, this guy had 2 interceptions, both as stinky as the other, but one was horrendous. And then the fumble, well, I guess he had one fumble and then one that was classed as a fumble, but then was actually classed as an interception. So I don't know which one's worse. The one that he threw open air to Jordan Love where there was nobody in there, or the one that he was like getting annihilated, threw away, it landed in the hands of Nwosu and went back for a pick six. I don't know which one's worse. Probably the one that goes for 6. But like, that's on you. Your defense did everything that it could. But then the flip side is it on him, or is it on the eliteness of the defense to just, as Dave said, get put in a blender? Because where I'm going, I'm slapping the offensive line of the Patriots, right? Like, And again, is it harsh? Maybe. They got a rookie left guard, rookie left tackle. No Super Bowl in history has ever had 2 rookies on the offensive line. So you know that there's inexperience there. And for the most part, during the season, you're playing the Jets twice, you're playing the Dolphins twice, you're playing a defense of the Bills that wasn't particularly stout up front twice. Now you're playing the Seahawks with a defensive line that can rotate Nwosu, Lawrence, Murphy, Big Cat Williams, Derek Hall, who had 2 sacks, Boye Mafe, Emawari off the edge. It's disgusting. And even the linebackers can blitz. Derek Thomas can blitz. What's his name? Who hit Weatherspoon? Had a sack or had the hurry that caused the interception. Like, these are all I just named maybe 8 players there that can get in your face as a quarterback, and they just did not get picked up by this offensive line. And that's truly terrible when you think that Will Campbell was, the 4th pick in the draft, getting body bagged by Emawari, who was top of the 2nd round. They had an opportunity to take him. They had an opportunity to take a couple of other offensive linemen. Gray Zabel from the Seahawks, who's been an amazing, not left tackle, but left guard, been impactful through the year. You just think, did they make the right choice? Is that right? And moreover, their offensive line was just not fit for purpose. So again, probably bolstering Dave's argument as to why you can't snap Drake May, but equally they're a unit in their own right. So they need to be told what's what. Any differences of opinion there, Dave? I know you love an offensive line.
No, I mean, you can't really defend what you saw. It was awful, and I guess he's obviously not been that bad throughout the season. I know he's been pancaked a lot and he's given some sacks up. Maybe he should be a left guard, instead of a left tackle, and maybe they'll take a tackle in the draft or sign one in free agency. When you have a preconceived idea of what the defense is going to do and they do something completely different and you don't adjust to it as offensive linemen, you need to be prepared for the blitzes and stuff. They'd have been watching tape. They'd have seen your defense. It's the same defense you've been running all year. The running backs need to be held accountable as well. Like, I hold them in that same group as the offensive linemen, because that's the 6th blocker. If they're not going to be a receiver on the play and they're not running the ball, then they're a blocker. And if they go the wrong way, they pick the wrong person up, or they don't pick the right person up, that's what happens. And how quick's that Witherspoon? He's a rapido. Yeah, he is. Lanky, long, powerful. And if he shoots a gap and you're not expecting it, or there's a linebacker rushing at the same, I think it's just good defensive scheming.
Yeah,
they are on the wrong end of it. But I say that's happened to everybody all year long.
It has. Realistically, most teams have struggled with that, especially when Seattle's team has been fully healthy and you've got all of those weapons at your disposal. All right. Well, we've sort of organically merged towards me glazing the Seahawks, but let's get more of a well-rounded approach, and we'll move to the NFC. If there was anything bad here, let's talk about that first. Then we can finish with a real glazed donut. But John,
yeah,
that's probably not the best analogy. Or let's start with you and go. Let's go with a slap in the NFC. What wasn't great for this Seahawks unit or for the NFC in this scenario?
From my perspective, it's very. I've been thinking about this a lot. It's very difficult to pick something out, because I'm not going to say you guys played perfect, but watching it, there wasn't a whole lot. But I'm going to have to do it, and I'm not just doing it because I'm a bit of Vikings fan. I'm actually really happy for him, but I'm going to slap Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Just because there were, and again, I mean, I'm saying this, he's in the Super Bowl at the end of the day, but there were just times when, we thought, he might be shitting the bed a little bit here. Do you know what I mean? There was a couple of times where you was like, don't start this. And he had a great game and he did throw some absolute bullets and, tight as anything, balls that were going through. But I don't know. I think maybe I'm looking at it from a psychological standpoint or something. I just saw him crumbling a little bit. And I thought, with how the Seahawks are, you keep that confidence. To me, your confidence should have been up at all times, and I don't know, almost to stop that pressure getting to you, because we all know Darnold can shit the bed. and he had a great game. So it's hard. I think I'm just being nitpicky when I'm saying it. I just think there was times when I just thought, please don't crumble. And it's like, come on, man, this is your moment. This really is your moment.
And he was nearly there, wasn't he? I think, yeah, the point you're getting to is he was on the fringe of a potentially bad performance, and a lot of his throws, certainly to start the half, were it was also the way that the Patriots were playing, but he was throwing a lot of balls that could have potentially been picked, and they weren't the most necessarily confident of throws. So I get you, and I think from as a fan's perspective, and whether this is Darnold, the offensive coordinator, or a little bit of everything, or just the Patriots being so good as you've signed them on defense, there was a moment where it was like, come on, score a touchdown. It was like, come on, score a touchdown, because if you score a touchdown, you bury this game. And I guess for a neutral fan, as much as obviously everybody wants to see scores, for a neutral fan, it was probably good that the Seahawks didn't score a touchdown in that opening half, because otherwise it was fully game over. There's no, potential shot in the third or fourth of the Patriots coming back, which looked possible. But yeah, I think Sam Darnold was on the edge of maybe shitting it. But what I love to see on the flip side is the growth from him, even last year to this year. Vikings having that huge moment, massive stage in the playoffs, first playoff game, really, really not doing well and throwing multiple interceptions and getting sacked about 16 times. In this, he was just safe, because he was probably told that's all you need to be, man. Be safe, push the ball down the field if you can, and if not, throw it out, throw it to the sideline, take the sack, whatever. And he did that. And to be fair to him as well, I think it's the only time it's ever been done where the quarterback who won the Super Bowl, he didn't have a single turnover in the entire playoffs. So, he's obviously consciously been safer with the ball, because there's so many times where Dave said it on the podcast. I think Cam said it on the pre-Super Bowl show a couple of weeks ago. I think he said, look, if you don't turn the ball over, if Sam Darnold can not be a turnover machine, you win, because your defense is so hard to put points on. And ultimately, maybe that's the narrative that they followed. Dave, you've been a Prince that was promised fan for a long while now, even before he'd even taken a snap at the Vikings. Do you think the slap is warranted, or do you understand where it's coming from, or do you want to get on your horse and say that's Ginger Jesus, baby?
Ginger Prince. No, he had a bad game. He didn't have a good game, and if it's probably all worked out well, because if you were playing a different team, it wouldn't have been as it was. If you get what I mean, he completed 50% of his passes. Some of his passes were very, very dubious. The touchdown to Barner was a bust of coverage. There was, I feel like he got, if you're playing a team that's got an equally as good defense as the Patriots have, but more on offense, that could have been a very close game, and it would have forced him to throw some balls that maybe, wouldn't have been as safe.
Yeah.
But completing 50%, 19 of 38 isn't good. A passer rating of 74 isn't good.
No.
I nearly slapped him. And I think that if you've got, not even saying like a Josh Allen, if your OC had a bit more confidence in him, you probably go for it on some of them fourth downs where you're in the red zone, where it's like 4th and 3. You maybe go for it to really stick the dagger in,
Yeah.
But I don't think he had maybe that confidence that he could, not that he can't make the throw, because he can obviously make the throw. He's a good quarterback, but he's maybe not got that a bit like, I don't see Josh Allen, but even like a Trevor Lawrence where he'd snap the ball and if it weren't there, he'd just run for it.
Yeah.
I don't think he would do that.
I know what you're saying.
I think the slap's warranted. I considered doing it. I was maybe like 35% going to do it.
Okay. All right. Where are you going?
I'm slapping JSN.
Okay.
Because I think JSN had the absolute opportunity on this stage in front of everybody to prove that he is that guy, that guy who can be the best receiver in the league, prove to everyone that he is that guy. He's warranted that he's the offensive player of the year.
Yeah.
And he showed up for it with four receptions for 27 yards, of 10 attempts, 10 targets.
Yeah, it's not great.
So you need, and I get, I understand that he had Gonzalez probably like on him the whole game, but you've got to be better than that. Like, the play the defense doesn't. So I think a bit more. I know he went out with like a concussion issue or something, but he came back. I just think I really expected him to take over this game. I think if somebody had said to me before, who's the key player in this, I wouldn't have said Kenneth Walker, even though he's been unbelievable probably the last 7 games.
Yeah.
At the playoffs and the regular season. You'd say it's JSN. JSN needs to be good so that they can move the ball. And it was the opposite, Kenneth Walker just put his crown on and went. So JSN.
Gotcha. Hard to refute, to be honest, given the stat line that you just read out and the eye test of watching the game. Like, Gonzalez did have him in his pocket in this game. And it came down to the fact that, there's a bit of double coverage there, but most of the time he was 1-on-1 and he couldn't win against him. I mean, I don't know what that says about JSN long term, or you just say that he literally went up against one of the top 3 corners in the league, and JSN is maybe a top 5 wide receiver, and the order of the two is probably that Gonzalez is a better corner than JSN is a wide receiver, and that's probably where the disparity is. Like, JSN will turn 95% of corners inside out, but Gonzalez is not one of them, so it's I think it's a fair assessment to say that Gonzalez had his number. I think it goes to show that as much as JSN's offensive player of the year had an amazing season, he isn't that unbreakable wide receiver. He's not that. I still have said, I don't think I'd put him as a better player ahead of like Puka Nacua or personally Jamar Chase. And I know you love your boy Jefferson, John. So maybe him too, just because of his length and he's got the speed. JSN's a little bit small. For me, JSN is a like definitive top 5 wide receiver, but he's probably the 5th. Like, that's probably where I would put him. And Gonzalez has got to be in the top 3. Him, Patrick Surtain, Stingley, Witherspoon might be in the 5 conversation, maybe in 10. But either way, whatever, it's your best is better than my best on today's day, and that was the Patriots. I think corner against receiver, so I definitely wouldn't disagree with JSN getting that, and it would have been nice, but that's luxury. That's Seahawks luxury. It would have been nice for JSN to have 120 yards and a touchdown. Wouldn't that have been great, Seahawks fans? Fuck that. Who cares? We won the Super Bowl. Like, you win it by hook or by crook, and it was by the foot of Jason Myers for the first half. That's for sure. Where I'm going with my slap is maybe just a little bit different, and again, we are like massively nitpicking here, but I think it's it's unfair, but I'm saying it. I'm slapping Tariq Woolen. So the corner of the Seahawks, when you've got the likes of Witherspoon and then Gonzalez doing their business, and then Tariq Woolen, who has had such an up and down season, it felt to me like this Seahawks Super Bowl game, whilst I'd imagine he did so much right that we didn't see. He was probably in every place that he needed to be to essentially have this team shut down. But in the moments where he wasn't where he needed to be, this guy got destroyed 1-on-1 against Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins, he's like probably a 4th receiver. Somehow he's like the number 2 on the Patriots, but if he was in any other team, he'd be like number 4. He's bounced around the league. Doesn't wear shoes when he turns up to stadiums, proper weirdo. Like, and he had him, it was that deep shot over the top. Woolen's supposed to be this rapid, that's what's in his arsenal, rangy, one of the fastest corners to ever run a 40 in the draft. And he got beat over the top by an aged Mac Hollins, and he came down with it and couldn't stop him from catching it, even though he's got, 3-meter long arms. And you think, come on, Woolen, like, he's fighting for his place in this team as well because he's a free agent. He's going to get paid big money because he's a good corner. Very. But I feel like he's let himself down in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. He had some altercations in the NFC game with Puka Nacua and got beat over the top deep after being such a douche. And then he ends up giving up this prayer of a touchdown, which just stick to your fundamentals. Keep him on the right side of you. If he's going to catch the ball, make him catch it inbounds, not in the end zone. So, yeah, I mean, it is nitpicking because I don't hate the guy at all. If we keep him, if we pay him, so be it. But of all that, I think the round out of this for the slap is, I think he's probably in this postseason, he's probably signed his release. Like, go test free agency, go see if another team will pay you more money. They probably will. And if we lose him, it's equally not like a death stroke. You know, it's like, okay, let him go. We'll try and plug that hole with another, you know, rookie, or go into the free agency market and pick somebody up a bit cheaper. So yeah, I don't expect you guys to have too much to say about it because it's a very Seahawky thing. But if you do, let me
I don't know if he either had just been subbed on or the play call, something happened. He wasn't in position. So he was like by the middle linebackers when they were getting lined up, and he'd kind of like run over. And I think that's probably what's done him on that particular play. But yeah, no, he had obviously the stupid penalty against was it the Rams?
It was the Rams
on the sideline where he was giving them some shit on the sidelines. But Josh Job's up as well. His contract's up as well, so he's a free agent as well. I think he had some good plays in that. He's a bit of a tackle monster. He is.
He is, yeah.
I think you need to bring one of them back. I was just looking then at how much their market value is, and that Josh Job, they reckon he's worth about nearly 10 million, and Woolen's actually only at 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I guess that's probably what I don't know who's the guy who sits and makes that up. He could be as qualified as me.
Yeah,
but there are some good corners out there.
Yeah,
available.
Yeah,
so
I think that's the opposite of what I've heard from like the Seahawkers, is that we could probably get Josh Jobe back on a longer term deal for a lot cheaper than what Woolen will probably go for. And if that's the way it goes, I'll be happy with that. You know, I'd like to keep one of them, and I think I would like to keep Jobe. But at this point in time, you know, very Seahawky, and we can talk about that in the off season. So, but yeah, good to know. Flipping the script then to ultimately the Super Bowl winners. Why did they win the Super Bowl? What things did they do amazingly? Dave, starting with you. What and who are you signing from the Seattle Seahawks?
I mean, I gave it away earlier. I'm signing your head coach, Mike McDonald. I just think he had the right game plan. I love the fact that he calls plays on defense, because he has the ability to just. He doesn't need to go through somebody else to change something. He can just be like, "No, this is what we're gonna. This is where I feel like we're lacking. We're just gonna absolutely get amongst them." I think he absolutely outplayed the offense. You know, the offensive coordinator. I think he had his number at every turn. He's got the right people. He's built this team the right way. You know, he's got what he likes. He obviously plays an aggressive style of defense. Like he was like that at the Ravens, wasn't he? Yeah. So he's brought that over. And you just look at the players that they had at the Ravens. You know, the Marlon Humphreys, like a rangy corner. Kyle Hamilton, tall, rangy safety that just does everything. And you look at what you've got in your secondary. It's basically them. Yeah. You know, them same type of players. And let's be honest, the Ravens' defense hasn't been the same since he left. So it must be him, you know. I mean, they're kicking themselves that they didn't get rid of Harbaugh earlier and retain him. But you get the benefit of that, you know. And I think he's been a great. He seems like a good dude as well, you know. Like from his interviews and stuff, he's very much the NFC interview when you beat the Rams. You know, he just seems like a likable guy, an intense likable guy. And I think
did not care.
Yeah. And I think you'll be relevant for. I genuinely think if he's going to keep your defense playing well. You'll be relevant forever. You know, as long as you get this steady. Ultimately, I think that's where it will come down to. You'll either get solid quarterback play from Darnold, who's going to keep progressing and getting better every year, slightly, and that will be enough to keep you relevant. And that's where you want to be. So, your coach,
nice, yeah. And as you say. Mike McDonald, second year. In his first year, he won 10 games. This year, he's gone to the Super Bowl and won it. What a story, you know, from somebody who was a coordinator at the Ravens, and prior to that, you know, was just not even in the realms of possibility of a head coach, and he's taken it on so quickly. But also, first head coach to call defensive plays to ever win a Super Bowl. Just goes to show you, you know, that's something. I think it's something new in the NFL that so many teams, maybe halfway through the season and beyond this year, are starting to try to emulate, replicate. You know, you've got so many teams now trying to build an elite defense through players scheming, bringing in these defensive-minded coaches. You know, Vikings, John, in a very similar position with who's your
Brian Flores.
That's it, with Brian Flores. Yeah, it's so good that you've retained him this season, because he just puts your team in a place where you only need mediocre offense to be able to win you games. Unfortunately, this year you had below mediocre offense, which is why you didn't get there. And then, you know, Titans, Dave just signed Salah, who's going to come in with a defensive mindset for the Titans, and all these teams, Broncos, Texans already doing it, you know, and they're deep playoff contenders already. And you think maybe this is, you know, it's the resurgence of the defense. It was once upon a time a thing, certainly in the Legion of Boom days, in the no-fly zone days of the Broncos. They each won a Super Bowl during that time, you know, and then it went away from that a little bit with your Tom Brady's, your Patrick Mahomes, where offense is king, and Tyreek Hill's, you know, running touchdowns in for 70 yards a pop. But then teams get savvy and things change. So I think for the time being, I mean, Mike McDonald's defensive playbook is going to be the fucking hot sauce of the offseason, isn't it? Everybody's going to be looking at ways to try and beat it and try and get away from it, or follow it and do the same thing. So that's how quickly things change in the NFL, and there's some smart enough people there to be able to, I'm sure, try and cook something up that's similar. I'm hoping that he's smart enough to know that and just shift something again.
I think it's to beat that offense, you need to have good quarterback play, you know, because you've been beaten by the Rams.
Yeah.
You know, you've been beaten by, I don't know who beat you this year, but you've been beaten by teams.
Rams, Niners, Bucks.
You know, Patrick Mahomes, they're not going to have another down year. Like, he was so good at them Niners defense. Think about the Niners defense that he beat in their first Super Bowl. That was an unbelievable defense. It's good quarterback play, I think. If you can get a quarterback who can move out of the pocket and give players time, you know, I think that's how you defeat it. I don't think you can do it from inside the pocket unless you've got a brain like Brady, where you can diagnose everything, change stuff to get a quick out or quick slant or whatever, because you can see, you know, that people are coming. You have to be that kind of person. And I just don't think there's that many of them around, you know, or you're a Matt Stafford that's got elite weapons, but you're also super elite. You've seen everything that there is to see. They're obviously going to be your biggest challenges, because you're going to have to play them twice a year. So they're going to get such a good look at you.
Yeah.
That, you know, they're going to have the answers to the test, I guess. But
and McVay's such a good coach too. So
yeah. And Shanahan, you know, like their offense, you know, is going to be what basically has to defeat your defense, and that's why it's going to be so good to. Like, who'd want that Cardinals job? Cardinals head coach.
Oh my God,
who'd want that? You've got nothing, and you have to play 6 games against the most elite defense in the league twice, and then 2 elite offenses for another 4 games. Like, you've already lost 6 games a year. It's such a tough place to be.
That's so true. That's so true. John, Seahawks. What was your favourite thing to watch? Where are you signing?
I think I'm just going to sign the Seahawks organization, because, like, when I've been thinking about this, there's just so many things, and I do think it was well deserved. But I think it was one of those years where everything just lined up for them. But they were making smart moves, even just down to head coach making changes with plays and bringing in Shaheed when you did. Like, it was like the opportunities were there. They were taking them. They were adding what needed to be added to that team. Obviously, we know the team's not going to be exactly the same after this year. You like to think it's going to be as close as possible. But yeah, I just think they just made all the moves right. And as I say, your head coach, he seems like such a cool dude. Like, and one of the recurring themes through all the interviews and things I've been watching and listening to, he's like instilled in them from the beginning, just believe in us. And, you know, as you guys have continued to steamroll the season, you can just see that, like, you know, and it's like, well, what was the instructions? What was you told to do? Just to be us, and to have that belief and like unity, and as a unit, as a team. I just think, you know, obviously you've got to be able to play good to back that up. It's all well and good being in togetherness, but if you suck, you suck. And you guys obviously don't. But I just think as an organization, yeah, you guys just pull together well. Even like bringing in Cooper Kupp to the fold and stuff, you know, like bringing in someone who obviously isn't the Cooper Cup of old, but he's slotted in perfectly, and he's played his part, he's played his role that you referred to earlier. There was a point in the Super Bowl game where JSN's kind of marked out the game, so Cooper Cup's in there making some plays, and it's just nice to see as an organization this snowball just keep going, and it's Mike McDonald's your coach, isn't it?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
But Daniel's the coordinator.
Yeah.
With Mike McDonald, he just, like David said, he seems like such a cool guy.
Yeah.
I think the players want to die for him. Do you know what I mean? They want to die for him. And that's what you want with a coach. That's what you want with a coach, and that's what you want with each other. And even when you were saying earlier, that's why Darnold's instructions could have been just play safe. Is that what we want to see? No, but it works.
Yeah.
And you've got the unit. So yeah. So it's again a bit of a cop out saying I'm going to sign the whole organization. But yeah, I just think opportunities were there this year. You guys took them, capitalized on them, and just snowballed, and ultimately it's why you ended up winning. It's well deserved.
Nice. Yeah, man. Yeah, kind of have to obviously agree. Like, I love Mike McDonald. I'm glad that he's on the team, and if you're signing the organization, I mean that goes across everything. It's the player acquisitions that we made, the draft. John Schneider, our GM, I sent something to Dave earlier on Instagram about. It's just a list of players that have been drafted over the last 5 years. And every single player in the top that has been drafted in round 1, 2, and there's a few players in round 3, they're high impact players now on the Seahawks. They're not just people who are just there. They're like, you're talking Witherspoon, JSN, Charles Cross left tackle, Emanwari, Kenneth Walker, all these players who at some point either this season or these playoffs have been game changers for the Seahawks. And it's hard to hit on those picks consistently. Like, you look down the list of like draft from 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and look at the players on maybe the first 2 rounds and see how many names either you don't know, you heard of maybe in the first year and they fell off and don't contribute, or have just been a non-factor. And it's a lot. That's, it's a lot. That's why sometimes you get those gems in the 3rd or 4th round. Your Dak Prescott's, your Russell Wilson's, your Devontae Adams's, your Bobby Wagner's, your Richard Sherman's, like of old. Like, these players were taken in 4th, 5th, 6th rounders, and all of a sudden they become amazing. But very rarely do you see like that consistent draft caliber that has come out of the Seahawks in at least the last 3-4 years. So organization wise, yes, that's a Super Bowl, right? That's how you win a Super Bowl. It's the only way, really, unless you follow a blueprint of like what the Rams did a few years ago and just go balls to the wall, sign in, vets to help you get across, your Odell Beckhams, your Matt Staffords, and bolster a team that's already been drafted well, like Aaron Donald and whatnot. But yeah, there's only a few ways to win a Super Bowl, and it has to be a full team effort from special teams to defense to offense. So yeah, and I think I'm not going to surprise anybody by my final sign, and it is going to be Seattle's defense. Just to finish this podcast, Seahawks Super Bowl win with the fact that we wouldn't be here, and we all know that as Super Bowl Seahawks fans, the Seahawks wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the defense. Mike McDonald's done what he needs to do to put that scheme in place. It's probably 80% him, but at the same time, the players that have come in and executed those jobs, it's so exciting. It's so exciting to have players like that, to have players like Devin Witherspoon, like Emanwari, like Leonard Williams, like Byron Murphy, like Ernest Jones, like Julian Love. Just to have that many players you can say, I fucking love that player. Like, oh, I love that player. Oh, I love that player. It is nice to have a team of players where you go, I could count on him in his position to do one of the best jobs you can do on the field. And so, yeah, I think that is my overarching thing. Like this defense has technically in the playoffs has been ranked higher than the Super Bowl winning defense of 2013, the Legion of Boom. Whether I would agree that I would take this team over the Legion of Boom is maybe questionable. I don't know, but it's been ranked higher. It's allowed less points. It's been more dominant. Its metrics are higher or lower, however you look at it on defense. But in the last 12, 13 years, to have 2 separate defenses with that type of dominance and Super Bowl wins, I am genuinely not taking it for granted. I feel very lucky that I've been able to follow a team that's been able to do what they've done. And I hope I don't sound like a dick as well in saying like, oh, I'm very grateful.
Seahawks are the best shit. Oh, fuck, it's a shit. Cooper Bryant. Yeah.
No, Dave, exactly right. That's probably what I do sound like, but legit, like, I would all like. I think I said it on a voice note to you, Dave. Like, I would, if the Seahawks weren't in the Super Bowl, and I've got a friend like you who wants the Titans to win, and the Titans ever get there, and they will at some point, they will.
Why are you smiling when you say that? Say that with a straight face. For people listening, he's not saying it with a straight face, and I'm not having that.
They will. Yeah,
That was pretty straight to me.
I try. No,
Yeah.
No, but I genuinely believe they will get there in your lifetime and hopefully in the near future. And when they do, like, it does feel different. Like, you think, I felt it kind of doesn't feel real. The fact that we do a podcast and we talk about football all the time, it's essentially our biggest hobby, and then to have your team win the Super Bowl, this feels even more different than when I watched the 2013 team win, because I'd been following them for like a year and a half before they'd won that. This is like, won a Super Bowl, lost one the next year, not been relevant really since, been like a mid to good-ish team, but then some down years, and then all of a sudden back in the Super Bowl and win it. You think, wow. And that's sort of how I'm finishing it, is that I love the fact that it's defense, because that's the reason I followed the Seahawks in the first place. Like that was where I got my football mojo. And so I'm just so happy that that's how it's gone, and to have a team that's operated this well this year in such a tough situation as well. No tougher place than the NFC West right now in football. So we did it the hard way, and yeah, really, really happy about that. And that's that. That is Slap or Sign Super Bowl edition done. I feel a little bit like, what do you do now? We look into the off season before we ride off into the night. I want to talk about that, and then we can finish. And the 2025 season of In the End Zone UK is in the record books. But guys, let's go into this off season. This now can be away from the Seahawks and the Patriots. Thank Moses to most listeners who are listening right now. But what are we most looking forward to this off season? Obviously, there's loads to come. Free agency, draft, training camp, all that jazz, trades, potentially. What are we most looking forward to? Dave, I'm going to come and start with you. I feel like the Titans are in such an opportunistic moment. Very similar to the Patriots last year. An absolute butt ton of cap space, the most in the NFL. A second-year quarterback who's shown flashes of brilliance, just needs some, experience. A good head coach, defensive-minded, coming to your team. Talk to us about what you're most excited about. You might not be most excited about the Titans, but I'm assuming it will be something related. Yeah.
I think we're in a really fortunate position being a Titans fan. And by we, I mean me. Because I do think we've got, I know I've not necessarily glazed, but I've defended quarterbacks, as I think you should, from Daniel Jones to Tannehill to Will Levis, to now Cam Ward. And I do genuinely think Cam Ward is going to be special. So I'm buzzing that we've got the opportunity to put a load of stuff around him. I'm glad that they've made the moves that they should have made last year. They should have got him a head coach that has maybe got a bit of experience, and I think they've built that now. You've got Salah as the head coach. He's brought in a former head coach as the defensive coordinator. He's brought Brian Daboll in from the Giants as the offensive coordinator, who spent a lot of time working with Josh Allen and then Daniel Jones, so
it's a great pair of coaches. That
I think they've absolutely I couldn't be any happier with all the coaches they've got. They've retained Bones Fossil, who's regarded as the best special teams coach in the league. He was with the Cowboys for years before coming to us. I couldn't be more happy with the staff they've put together. And then on top of it, we've got 100 million. We've got the most available cash to go and get. And I just don't think they're going to go and waste it on getting like a Trey Hendrickson. I would love them to get a George Pickens, and I'd pay him 30 million a year. But the Cowboys are going to franchise tag him because they should. So if we can just add some veteran pieces that are good, not necessarily mega expensive, and just build the team, spread that money around, while you've got a quarterback on a rookie deal, use all that money that you're going to eventually have to pay him to build something around him. draft well, and hopefully we can have a defense. And it's not going to be a defense like the Seahawks have got straight away. It's going to take time to build it. But I think having Salah will attract people that maybe we wouldn't have a chance of either signing or wanting to play in Tennessee, because it is a small market. You know, we don't get the prime time games and stuff. So I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're a Titans fan. I don't know if we've got any Titans fans that listen to this podcast, that bleeds on week after week after. If you are a Titans fan, feel free to reach out to on the WhatsApp group or whatever. Not WhatsApp, Instagram. And yeah, and then so it's a good time, you know. It's a good time to be a shit team, because the free agency coming up and the draft, and they're always better when you're a shit team, because you get better picks. You know, you're not the Seahawks picking at 32. You're the Titans picking up 4. You know, you're the Vikings picking at, say, 10. I don't know where they're picking, but it'll be around there, you know. So it's a good time, as sad as it is that we're not going to football now, oh my God, until August, you know.
When you said that the weekend, I nearly passed out. I was like, is it really that long?
Yeah, it's such a long time, you know, and that's why you need to keep... We've got some things going on in the background for the In the End Zone, like family, I guess, fantasy-wise, and Madden and stuff, which is great, and I'm buzzing for that, because we've done online leagues before in COVID with just me, you, and Cam, and they were such good fun. To get 8-9 people involved in that's going to be so good. And then just try and survive, I guess, until summer.
Yeah.
Before it all comes back around. So
there's some big milestones in there, like you say, like the draft and free agency, which really pick things up considerably. Equally, you know, it's intense. It's a lot of week in, week out, late nights, late Sundays, late Mondays, late Thursdays, like from September to January. I wouldn't change it for the world. I freaking love it. But there's a lot of effort that goes into being a football fan in the UK. That is for sure. We can all attest to that, John?
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Just a quick one whilst we're talking about, we obviously haven't got Lil Camo on the podcast. Not to forget about the guy. He's on his Caribbean cruise at the moment, so I hope he's having a good time. We saw his setup, didn't we, on Super Bowl night? He was on the back of a boat with a huge jumbo screen, watching from a jacuzzi or something flash. But, you know, massive thanks to Camo. I'd imagine that this off-season, Cam's going to be hoping that the Packers do something creative with cap space and allow a few changes to be made, because this NFC is getting tougher by the minute. The NFC North is getting tougher by the minute with the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions. So I'd imagine he just really wants to see some, you know, movement there, some acquisitions on defense, because that's really what let them down. But yeah, just wanted to call out for Camo. Lil Cam, he's not on the poddy, but I'm sure he'd love to be here if he could. And we'll hear all about what he really feels about the off season in a couple of episodes' time. But to finish up on the guest front, Big John, what are you looking for on or from the off season?
Someone to boomerang 9 away from the Vikings as hard and as fast as possible. No, I'm glad that we got rid of our GM, so I'm going to be interested to see who they bring in there. And I can't even sugarcoat it. I want to see JJ McCarthy fighting for his job. I want to see him gone, really. We spoke about it a bit, didn't we, on Sunday, and it was like, I wouldn't mind if Kirk came back, because Kirk's got that connection with Jefferson. He fits our scheme well. He knows our scheme well. He doesn't suit the Falcons. Like, he just doesn't. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. I know there's all these talks about Burrow, and to be honest with you, there is part of me that is just like, you know what? Trade for Burrow. Do it. Yeah. Like, just make a big power play and just try and... Because it's like, we made a big play on McCarthy and we shit the bed. But like, it's different when you're doing that for Joe Burrow, someone that is proved, you know, like, we've got a good offensive line. So Joe Burrow's going to have protection, not like Cincinnati where, you know, week 2, like, turf toe.
Yeah.
I really want to see Vikings just make a go for it. Like, we've got Brian Flores on an extension. So we're going to have solid defense hopefully again this year. So, and Jefferson, like, obviously I know this was not his season and I had him in fantasy, and the loyalty to Jefferson would not let me, even when he was getting me 1.6 points a flipping week.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a player you have to play, isn't he? Because you just never know.
Absolutely. And like his last game when he had to get, the 53 yards to keep his record, like you could just see him making things happen. And you just think this guy's just been missed this season. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. So yeah, I just want Vikings to make a big just an aggressive push. I really do. I'd love to see that because yeah, we've seen this year, anything can happen in the league. And there's so many players that aren't going to be there for majority, like Parsons not going to be there. Mahomes not going to be there. What's his name? You said it earlier. Sauce Gardner. Is he still?
Yeah, he's injured for a long while for sure. Out the Colts for sure. Yeah.
So there's a lot of players that aren't going to be there, and it's just like, well, really. And with the Bears, credit to the Bears, they've done amazing this season. So it's like that North is going to be a battle, and it's like I don't want us to just sink to the bottom. Like if the GM was as I've seen. The one that was in hand with keeping JJ McCarthy and making that decision, cool, he's gone. Like, get someone in that is going to be aggressive. That's what I want to see. I want to see aggression and because there's no reason why we can't be in the playoffs and making a good push.
Yeah, it was very close. Yeah, it was very close this year, even in a very tough division. But I think it's what you have to do. Like you're in a division where this year was led by the Bears, which was such a surprise, but they're not going to drop off. They're probably only going to get better. First year under, what was his name, the coach?
Ben Johnson.
First year under Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams taking a leap. Colston Loveland becoming one of the best tight ends in the league. Wide receivers are plenty, and they just need to make some moves on defense, which I'm sure they'll do. Then you've got the Lions, who, by golly, will not be, I think they won't regress. I think they will pick themselves back up. They had a lot of injuries this year in the secondary. I think that they can now build on that, and I think they'll always be relevant because how can you not be when you've got Amon-Ra, Gibbs, Laporta, Jameson Williams, a relatively strong offensive line, a solid quarterback in Goff, Aiden Hutchinson, and they could build on their defense a little bit, Brian Branch, but I think they're still going to be relevant. And the Packers, for some ungodly reason, are always some kind of relevant to I don't know what Cam did, sacrifice some proportion of his soul to allow the Packers to be relevant forever. But I think as the Vikings, you have to be aggressive. I think if you're sat there going, JJ McCarthy might be all right, might roll him out for another 2 years, you'll end up just keep going down because he's the worst quarterback in the division, and you're not going to win with the worst quarterback in the division unless and
also
defense that's outrageous.
And we're not a building team. Like, to me, we've got all the pieces. So it's not like he's coming to a fold where it's like, right, we're built like with a Cam Ward, for example, Dave, like you guys have got the potential to absolutely rebuild, and Cam Ward suits that perfectly. Like, we don't need that. We're kind of already there. I'm not saying we're amazing or anything, but like, we don't need that. Like, we need experience. We need a veteran, and we need, and just someone with a good attitude as well. If you are going to be a young player like that, like, I can't stand it, and I just think it just didn't suit the Vikings, man. It just wasn't good.
I think there's a few options for you, that's for sure. I think the Burrow conversation will probably die a death very quickly, unless, like, I can't ever imagine a team trading somebody of his caliber, but you never know because there's also the talk about Lamar. But I just can't see it. I think what's probably better for the Vikings to be what I would still class as being aggressive would be maybe going out there and getting a Kirk Cousins to compete for that number one spot. And let's be honest, if he's competing for it, he'll win it against JJ McCarthy. Or even the rekindling of somebody like Kyler Murray. Dave said it before, he wouldn't cost a bomb like Burrow would. He equally wouldn't cost the amount of picks and the capital that you'd have to give up, because if you're going for Burrow, you're essentially going chips on the table. We're not picking in the first round or second round for the next 4 years, probably.
Well, I mean, they're on about changing the rule, aren't they? So at the minute you can only trade draft picks up to 3 years. So 3 first round picks.
All right.
So say 2027, 2028, 2029.
Yeah.
But they're looking at extending that to 5 years. So people could be like trading 5 first round picks for. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
You get the job done.
Yeah, it would. You would eventually trade somebody like that, but at the same time, you are mortgaging your franchise's health for a long period of time. It's a very risky thing to do. If I was the Vikings, I would actually prefer to have somebody like I just mentioned over Burrow for the price that it would take to get him. So yeah, but that's just my opinion on it. That's just what I would feel like. Cool. And then what am I looking forward to most in the off season? It's a difficult one. When you're literally as high as you can be, which is, you know, where I'm at, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of a scary concept now. If we'd have gone out sort of mid playoffs or something, you think we nearly got there. We nearly got there. What do we need? You know, what do we need to build? What do I need from the draft? What do I need from free agency? Now I feel like pressure's on, you know, like all eyes are on the Hawks. You know, everyone's coming for the boys, which I love. And look, we've got every chance. We've won it this year. There's no reason why we can't win it again. But for me, it's about how we go about sustaining that. I think my approach is probably really boring. It's like the boring approach to what is going on in the league right now. But we've got a lot of cap space, like sixth most. I want us to reinvest that to all the players that deserve it within our organization already. You know, all those players that could go somewhere. You've just won a Super Bowl. If you have got any chance of running it back, secure the players that you want to keep, or if you're firm in the opinion that you can upgrade, go and use that money to upgrade in those fine areas where we've maybe just been beat over the top, or don't quite have the coverage, you know, or don't quite have that second receiver, you know. In those areas, just fine tune what can be fine tuned, because I mean we've only got 4 picks in this draft for the Seahawks. We've got first, second, third, sixth. That's it. So I can see some trade backs and, you know, and just stockpiling players as opposed to like top flight players, or maybe, yeah, I don't know how many players we've got on our roster that would be tradable. I don't think we have any really. But yeah, I think that's what I want to see. Just like bring back the fundamentals of this team that we've got, operate within the confines of McDonald's vision. You know, I don't know how I feel about Kenneth Walker. We've not even spoke about him. The guy was the MVP of the Super Bowl. Dave's obviously said he had an amazing seven game stretch to finish the season. I think midway through the playoffs, I said, do we bring him back to Dave? Would you bring him back now, Dave? Has that even changed? Or would you just say, cheers for your MVP, cheers for the Super Bowl, and let him go and then try and get somebody better? Or like, what have you changed your opinion on it?
I think I'd bring him back because of how you can only go off. You're only as good as your last game, you know. In his last, like I say, the last probably 7 games, he's been verging on that elite, you know. He's rushed for over 100 yards in all of them. And I think with Charbonnet, you've got a nice 1-2 there. You know, you've got a nice 1-2 that can do essentially what you need them to do. You don't need to be paid. I mean, he's not going to command loads of money.
No.
I was just actually trying to look then at how many players you're losing, or how many need to be bought back. Charbonnet, is he also?
No, he's still on the contract.
These are all the ones.
To my knowledge, the players that are up that would be worth it would be Tariq Woolen, Josh Jobe.
Okay. Which of these would you bring back then?
I've already said that I'd be happy to gamble him to go. Josh
Jones is a right tackle.
No.
Kobe Bryant.
I would like to bring him back, but yes, let's say we bring him back.
Boye Mafe.
No. He barely
Kenneth
gets into the
Walker.
team. Again, since the Super Bowl goes, yes, bring him back.
Shaheed, I think he's vital. I think you need to bring him back. I just don't
Shaheed,
have the money to do it.
We might struggle with the money to do it. The problem that I've got there is we also gave a 3rd round pick. So like you're almost like you've rented that 3rd round pick. So I feel like you have to give quite a lot to try to keep him, because otherwise you've not only lost the player, but you've lost the pick. So
yeah. And he's just an elite returner, isn't he? Like he just gives you such an advantage straight away.
Yeah. So yes, he would probably be as vital or more vital than Kenny.
Yeah, the rest of them are nobody. Josh Jobe is the only other one, really. So there's probably 5 or 6 people. I think with your picks, 4 picks, they are good, as in they're valuable picks in terms of first, second, third. Although they're essentially a second, third, and fourth.
Yeah.
From where you're picking, unless some of them have been traded out before.
No, they're all bottom of the round.
Do you use your 45 million or whatever you've got in cap space to bring them players back and have your draft players added to it? I feel like you don't need to change much. Maybe get a little bit more explosive on offense. I do think you need a receiving tight end.
Okay. Yeah.
Mate, your boy, he's not like, when you've got the likes of Njoku, Pitts, who's the guy from the not Vikings, from the Ravens.
Oh, it's Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, him. He's a cheap Kyle Pitts, isn't he?
Yeah.
I feel like you could get one of those for like 8-9 million, which would really just push. It just give you something else on offense you don't really have at the minute.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's not a lot to do when you're already at the top of the tree and you've dismantled teams with your defense. It's just the 1% that you need to look for, just a little improvement here, a little improvement there. And that's what I feel the Seahawks are at. Whereas the Titans, it's 100% here, 100% here, 100% here.
Yeah. When you break it down like that and look at the players that we've got to bring back, realistically, I think you could probably bring them all back in some shape or form when you extend out deals with the money that we've got, but it would mean not bringing anything new in apart from draft picks. So you maybe look at this free agency pool and say, not for us, thanks very much. We'll keep what we've got in house and we'll try and build in the draft, which I think is probably more akin to our GM's way of working. But I guess we'll see. I'm also just looking forward to just the off season in general, everything about it, just watching teams make changes. It's not all about the Seahawks, it's not all about the Titans, it's not all about the Packers or the Vikings. It's about football. We love to see good quality football being played, and I love to see teams building and how the game changes. So just looking forward to everything that happens. We're going to get my head deep into some college ball now, between now and then, watch some draft prospects, and it's a whole different side of the NFL, which is why I love it as well. You go from Patriots poor team being in the Super Bowl the very next year. Let's only hope that could happen for maybe the Titans or the Vikings, not the Packers, not the Packers.
No.
But yeah, great. That's everything. That is a season wrap. Big John, it's amazing having you in and on the last episode of the year. So thank you very much for joining us. Hope you've had a good time.
Loved it, mate. I loved it. And this whole season's been sick. Honestly, everything's about it. So thank you, boys, for bringing me into the fold.
No worries at all. We will definitely get you back on during the off season. We'll have plenty of stuff to talk about. We go into our division dives where, we'd love to hear in a bit more depth what you want to see from the Vikings, just like from a team perspective. So we'll do that. But for now, from week 1 chaos to regular season wins to playoff madness to Super Bowl glory for the Seattle Seahawks. Thank you, everybody, genuinely, who have listened, who have supported, who have shared, who have messaged, who have contributed in some way and stuck with In the End Zone UK all season long. The podcast does not exist without the listeners. It would just be me, John, Cam and Dave sat in a room chatting about football, which would be absolutely fine by me, but it's even better when we've got people that listen and interact with us as well. Now we turn the page and our next episodes will be kicking off the 2026 season. Free agency, draft, training camp, division dives and early predictions. But until then, from all of us at In the End Zone UK, football is life. This year, your Super Bowl champions are the Seattle Seahawks. Peace out, everyone. Cheers, boys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate listeners. See you in the new year.
Nice
See
one.
you guys.
Bye-bye.
Catch me balling like I'm in the end zone. I got my homies in the no new friend zone. Making plays that land us in the end zone. Coming in clutch, you can catch me in the end zone. End zone.